All right, welcome everyone to part 2 of shawl making. For those of you that joined in before, this was a place and a space to come and share your projects. Let us know how it worked out. And just to do some sharing about regalia making and sewing and this kind of art. So thank you to everyone that's joining us live, or if you are viewing this as a recording, I want to welcome you also. And yeah, we'll get started. So my name is Anasita. I come from the Dene Nation, and currently I live in San Jose, California. My family is from Shanto, Arizona, and I'm just really excited to be able to share a little bit of what I know with you all. I think that it's important for us to share these kinds of things so that we can have a continuation of our young ones or even our sisters to learn these ways, and so we can carry on. Whatever your goal is or your intention for today's workshop, I just want to send you all to my best intentions in your project. Before any project I start, I really always want to think about those things that I'm most grateful for and why I'm doing this, because all of that is really going to be put into the work that we do in anything, right? Whether we're working in our jobs or working on our regalia, that's the way that we were taught. So yeah, I just want to encourage you all to start that way. Maybe get a glass of water, something good to drink, and maybe you want to turn on some good music to help you, or you have a favorite show to keep you company on the TV. So I just want to welcome you all into my home and to my little sewing room right here, because we're going to travel around this room to look at some of the different steps for shawl making. So if you're tuning in for the first time, we're just going to go and do a quick run through of some of the steps that it's going to take for you to complete your shawl. This shawl that I'm going to kind of share with you is more of an old style shawl, but if you are working on something contemporary, the steps are really similar. Besides, like maybe for more contemporary stuff, you might add some applique or some ribbon work, or even add, different types of fringe on with a variety of colors to make it more flashy and contemporary. I really love old style. I'm a fancy dancer. I dance a few, like, well, all styles and powwow, traditional. I started off dancing traditional, and then when I was given permission, I started dancing jingle, but fancy has always been my my favorite. I am well over my 30s now, but I told myself I am going to dance fancy for as long as I can. So I love fancy, and I love old style fancy. So yeah, I just want to share this style with you all. I have a few samples to share with you guys of like what our product might look like. So this shawl right here was given to me out in Navajo when I was dancing out at Navajo Nation Fair. And you'll see this like style of shawl has a little bit different type of fringing on it. So for those of you that are more experienced, this might be something that you work up to, but we can talk about that too. This is more of the style that we'll work on today, where it's just going to be a plain shawl on some gabardine fabric. And it's a really simple hem that we're going to do on the shawl. and we're gonna have some fringing that we're gonna add on to it. So a lot of like the old style shawls like this, they don't have any design on it. It's just, the fabric's just plain. And when I make these style of shawls, I like to use gabardine fabric because it's a little bit easier to, we're gonna use a crochet needle, but it's easier to kind of get through the fabric when it's woven like this, and we, you know, put the needle through, it's a bit easier to get through. So we're gonna use gabardine fabric. This is a neon, like neon green fabric. So it's kind of like gonna be a little mix of old style and contemporary. I'm gonna make this for my sister because she loves green. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna pick out fabric. So like I was saying, you're gonna use gabardine, and a lot of times when you go to the fabric store, like it's clearly labeled, or you can ask somebody for that type of material and they can lead you to it. It does have like a certain kind of feel to it, and a lot of people might use it to make tablecloths. If you are buying this like at a wholesale store and they have them on the big rolls and it's like 60 wide, typically you can find some really good deals for those. And when I purchased the fabric, and given I'm fairly 5'3", so after I wake up in the morning and my body's totally stretched out, I'm 5'3". So I'm not that tall, and when we use this kind of fabric and a 60 wide, when we fold it in half, then it's perfect. I use the whole entire width, and I'll show you how we measure that out. The other part, when you're thinking about buying your fabric, and this might be different for different folks, is your arm span. So because I'm short, I don't have a very big arm span either. So when I measure for myself, or if I'm making something for another person, then I'm going to hold my arms out, and I want to like measure from fingertip to like your other fingertip all the way out. And then I'm going to I'll add maybe 1.5 inches or more, depending on how wide you want to do your hem. But usually if you add just 1.5 inches, you should be fine. And that's the part that's going to kind of go over your shoulders. That's going to be the length. So for me, again, when I'm 5'3", and if I am measuring my shawl out and thinking about how much fabric do I want to buy, I typically buy like 2.5 yards, and I will have some left over. I don't trust the people that cut it sometimes, and so I just always want to like measure or get a little bit extra fabric, not a whole lot, but a little bit extra, so that I can do my own cut. Because if you go to the fabric store and you buy, say you measure and you ask the person that's cutting for the exact amount that you want, I wouldn't always trust that. You always want to just get a little bit more and do your own cut, because I'm going to show you all how to look at your fabric and lay it out so that you can get like a nice cut, and so that your shawl will lay really nicely too, and not try to go all crooked on you. I'm just taking out some fringes so I can show you guys from the beginning how to do that. But let's see. Any questions so far? I think it's
When you were talking about, measuring it out, and then you were talking about how many inch did you fold it over? So you know how you got like, let's say 2.5 yards, and then you folded it over.
oh yeah, okay. So when we cut, we're gonna fold it over like that, but we're gonna, let's see, we're gonna call the from fingertip to fingertip, we're gonna call that the length. And the other part that we're gonna fold over, that's gonna lay from, like sit from the top of your neck down to below your bottom, we're gonna call that the width, only because like when you are at the fabric store, you might get like a 45 wide, or you might get a 60 wide like fabric. Typically those are the way that they're made. And when you buy fabric, like for example, like at Joann's, a lot of times those are like 45 wide, and then they're folded in half. And so the salvage is like this part on the bottom of like a fabric, and it will, if it's folded in half, it'll be at one end. Let me show you guys a quick example. So if you're, this is definitely not gabardine, this is some cotton, Star Wars print for the mask making. So this is the fold on the top, right, when you guys are at the fabric store. And so right here is like 45 wide. I'm gonna measure it just to make sure. Yep, I'm not making it up. It's 45 when I open it up and measure from salvage to salvage. But when you're at the fabric store and they're on the bolt, it's folded in half right here. So it's doubled, right? And this is your salvage at the end. However, when you are at like not Joann's, you might have something that is on a really big spool and it's not folded in half. And so this is a 60 wide fabric from salvage and to salvage. Okay. But when we fold our shawl, we're gonna fold it in half. So it's salvage to salvage. Both ends are that way. And this fold is gonna be the top that sits around the top of your neck. Okay. So if you are shopping at like a chain fabric store, like again, like Joann's, this is the fold. So if this was your shawl and this is the salvage, then like that would be sitting on your neck that way, right? But if you get a 45, then you'll see in the back that it's not gonna go all the way past your bottom. At least for me, as a woman, it's gonna kind of like sit like mid bottom. Whereas if I fold this in half, this 60 wide, it's gonna go below, my bottom. So for a youth, the 45 wide fabric, if you're gonna buy gabardine 45 wide, that will work. And then for adults, I would recommend 60 wide. You can also buy the 60 wide and just cut it so that it fits the youth. So I also prep this. This is for a little person, and this is from a 60 wide, but I cut it to like the measurements of, this will fit like a 4-year-old. And so this just has her arm spanned from here to here. And then I cut the width. So that's our next step. Once you have your fabric from the fabric store, let me just take out these other few fringes. Because if your grandma is anything like our grandma, she doesn't like you to waste things. So let me just do this.
I think that's all grandmas, Indian.
Yeah, so thank you guys for your patience. And like I was saying, I was hoping that more people would join on today so we could see their projects, but well, they're just gonna do a Cliff Notes version of the shawl making. But if you want to see our first session also in its entirety, you can go ahead and log on to the American Indian Cultural Center page, and it'll have the recording of our first session as well. So you'll get 2 versions of me. If I contradict myself in any of the videos, I don't know. I'm just kidding. Okay, so so once you have your fabric, what you're gonna do is you're gonna hold it up and fold it in half. So you have selvage to selvage here, okay? And then what I do is I like to use my thumb to play with the fabric. Like I said, you don't want to always assume that this cut is perfect. And you'll see that right here on the edge, it's not lined up. So that means that we need to move it so it's lined up together. Because some folks will just want to, you know, once the cut is there, you'll want to just put these corners to corners and assume that that's right, but you don't want to assume that it's right. You want to make sure that the edges are all together and lined up. So I'll show you, see how that's off right there, the edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my thumb like this so the edge lines up really nicely and lays together. You see how that happened? And if you turn this around, it did it to the other side too. So our participant asked, can you make shawls out of something else other than gabardine? Absolutely. And a lot of times, especially contemporary shawls, like there is all kinds of different fabrics that you can use to make your shawl. So once you have this lined up on your edge, then you're ready to go ahead and cut your fabric. Okay. Let's see. So I'm gonna move this over here. I like to use a cutting board and a nice big yardstick. So let's see. You're gonna place your fabric on your cutting board. After you have it lined up, just so. And what you're gonna do is line up, so I folded it in half again. you're gonna line it up. I like to line it up on the corner here and all the way up. And then it's lined up all the way across. Okay. So this is just a sample, and I've already cut this shawl out. So I just want to take you guys through the steps so that you can see. And I don't have it all the way lined up because I already have a hem right there. So this is just a sample. So if your fabric was going like further, and I'll show you a different example with a different type of fabric, then you're going to take it, right? We've already measured our fingertip to fingertip, and this is in half. So this is the half of the length of the shawl. And so I like it to be like 33 inches. And that would be so if I didn't have, no, well, actually it's less than 33. But then you go ahead and you put this guy across your fabric using the guides to make a straight line. And then you go ahead and put your chalk line and mark it and then cut it. So I'll show you again with another type of fabric. As one of our participants mentioned, another type of fabric besides gabardine. And I'm gonna use the same method though. I'm gonna use the same method in lining up the selvage. So this is actually a cotton fabric. So you can use cotton fabric, you can use like fancy fabrics, anything you'd like, really. The only thing is when I've used other fabrics besides gabardine, sometimes it's really hard to push your fringe through, and that's something that you want to think about. Okay, so let's see. We'll go ahead, and our fabric, again, sorry my camera guy is not here right now. This is a big piece of fabric. So again, I'm gonna line up the selvage to make sure that it's all carefully aligned. And once I have that, then I'm gonna go ahead and lay that on the table. Okay. So because this is, this fabric looks like it's a 45 wide, I am going to, or actually, let me check. Yeah, it's shorter. So it's not a 60 wide. It's not a 60 wide. So I'm gonna make this one, I'm gonna cut it for a youth shawl. Hello.
Nisita, do you have to wash the cotton fabric beforehand?
That is a really great question. A lot of seamstresses do wash their fabric before using any of it. For shawl making, sometimes or for me, I'm using like really delicate fancy fabrics, so I won't wash it all the time. It just really depends on the fabric. Given the times and given like all circumstances that are happening right now, it's always great to wash things. Even like these old style shawls with the gabardine, like you can wash it and it won't really get too bad. I mean, there'll be some fraying at the ends, but it won't be like unmanageable. It doesn't fade. And that's also why, another reason why I love using gabardine. It doesn't fade. And some of these shawls I've had for like years. Like I've been dancing for probably like over 30 years now. And so like some of the shawls that I have are they're like 25 or more years old, and they're still really good and in really good condition. So yeah, gabardine you can wash, cotton you can wash. This cotton right now is not washed, so nor is it ironed. But that's another thing that you'll want to do if you're using another fabric other than gabardine. Because gabardine, when I'm making my old style shawls, I don't really iron them. But cotton, you definitely want to try to iron. So let's see. I think I'm going to go like 24. This is, again, this is folded in half. So this is going to be half of a shawl. And I'm going to, this is where I'm going to mark for my youth shawl. So whatever material that you're using to make your shawl, this part is going to be the same process of making sure that you have it laying right, that it's folded right, it's lined up. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it here. And I'm going to go ahead and cut all the way across. If you have like a rotary cutter and you want to do this on with your rotary cutters and your board, your nice cutting board, you can also do that as well. So this is going to be your shawl cut out. Let's see. So you'll have this shawl cut out. And again, this is just for a youth. It might be a little bit long. So I'll probably cut it also this way. So what you can do is place it back on your board, just the way that you cut it the first time.
We have a question from a participant.
Yes.
They're asking, if you don't have a measuring board or yardstick, how can you cut straight lines?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. I would definitely recommend like this board, this kind of grid board. I think that they're only like 16 bucks or something. But if you can't, like if you don't have access to one and you want to cut a straight line, if you have this part nicely aligned and your fabric is folded the right way, what you can do, and this is like a trick I've seen on people that make skirts, is you kind of fold it. You fold it and you press it like either with your hand, or you could do a press with the iron. And you fold your line, right? Fold your line so that there's like a nice something, crease in there. When you unfold it, you'll see a little line that'll go across, and then you can use that as your cutting guide. So that's a little trick too. So again, if you don't have a board, maybe you're just like doing this on your floor and you end up measuring out, okay, I want it to be this wide, or come to this part, you know. or depending on the height of your person you're making this for. Then you just go ahead and fold, press down, or even iron it, and then cut along the line, just like that. And then you'll have your piece. So the other part is that this is cotton, and that will work, that trick will work okay for this one. But if you are cutting gabardine, then your fold like that without having some measurements might be a little bit tricky. So next, once you have your shawl cut out, then you're gonna go ahead and go to your machine and you're gonna do a hem. So I'll bring you all over to my little sewing corner now. And when you turn on your machine, one of the dials that you are going to use, this one is going to be the multiple zigzag stitch. I really love this stitch because it doesn't bunch up my hem for this kind of project for gabardine. I mean, I even like the way it looks if I'm using cotton or a different one. So you'll see if you have like a control, kind of control dials on your machine, be a knob, and you can just switch it, your knob, to the setting that you want. If you have a digital machine, this is going to be a straight stitch, I mean, just a regular, yeah, straight stitch. This is a zigzag stitch right here. That's also one that I've used in the past, but then I learned, I'll let the ice cream guy, ice cream man, go by real quick. This multiple zigzag stitch right here is the one that I really love for this project.
I thought that was their background music.
Oh yeah. I think it's really cool that we still have ice cream man over here. Let's see. So yeah, just go ahead and choose your multiple zigzag stitch, and we'll go grab our fabric to do our hem. When you're choosing your thread, lots of folks like to use thread that matches their fabric, so you can't really see it. For me, I'm gonna use white so that you can kind of see the distinction, or you can see a little bit of what we're doing. So let me go grab that fabric. You'll see I have a Janome machine. They're not paying me to advertise that, but I really love that machine.
I think it's really inspiring to, just learn all of this and seeing what happens, what the end result is with all these shawls, because I think that sewing can be intimidating for a lot of people. And so yeah, and I like that we're able to ask questions and not feel, intimidated or scared that we may, that we're not using this great machine, or that, we don't carry this knowledge. But I think it's great that we're able to ask these questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, April. So, okay, so with the gabardine, I've done, like on the other video I was telling participants, I've done so many different like trials and errors when working with different fabric. And what I've learned is, even if I sew this, iron this gabardine, it still won't like give me what I want. And so I really just learned how to do like a roll hem, where you roll it over once. And a lot of times I use just the width of my finger as a guide. okay? So I roll it once, and then I go ahead and roll it again, and that's your rolled hem right there. And what we're gonna do, and what I also suggest for everyone to do, is take maybe a scrap of what you cut off before and use that to test out your stitch, your machine, everything. And so you could do any kind of troubleshooting before you start on your actual shawl piece. So again, we're just gonna go after you do your roll. We're gonna continue to do our roll as we go down. Your sewing machine has these really cool little guides right here with lines and measurements and things. So I like to use this to line up this part, the edge part of my fabric. And so what we'll do is you just drop your needle down and put your foot down. You have your rolled hem. And if you guys can see, this is where my guide is, my line right here. That's the bottom of my hem. And you just go for it. So it may look like I am pushing the fabric into the machine. That's a misconception. Your machine will feed your fabric for you. And so your hands are really just a guide. Like this hand right here on the bottom is making sure that I stay on my guide on this side. And this hand over here is just making sure that my fabric stays in alignment. So you'll see I can, like, if I'm barely touching this side, that's just to make sure things are going in place. Some of your machines might have a control like this guy up here. So this is like the speed that it can go. So if I want to go really slow, like if you're a driver and you have like just a really heavy foot on the pedal, this will like not, you know, it'll keep you from doing that. It'll just go really slow, right? If I speed it up, then I can go faster. And I'm really using my pedal to go the speed that I want. So what I'm doing is I'm continuing to fold, like roll my hem here. And if you're sewing for the first time, I would just encourage you to, you know, go slow, take it slow, take your time. There's no rush. Okay, and you're just gonna do that all the way around your shawl. All right, I'll pull this forward and you can see here. You guys can see here how it's a multiple zigzag stitch. Okay, so you're just gonna do this all the way around. And if it's imperfect, you know, your first time around, I think there are times where it'll be good just to take it out and start over. But sometimes if it's just like a little imperfection, it's okay too. Like you're learning something new, and the next one will come out really, really good, you know, better than the first one. But just do it, don't give up, because I think it's also really easy to start a project and get really discouraged and like want to give up. So sewing is like really taught me like a lot of patience and a lot of like just forgiving myself, because it could get really frustrating if you have something imagined in your mind and it doesn't come out exactly the way you want it to. So we're almost to the edge, and I just want to take you guys to the edge so that you can see how we do the corner. And I just realized now that I started on the wrong edge, but that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna show you guys how to do the corner. One second.
So for anyone that's just joining, we're gonna, Anacita's taking a quick break and then we're coming back. So even if you've signed on late, you're still able to ask questions and catch up. So.
All right, so we aren't gonna go and do the entire shawl, but once you have your hem all the way around one side, when you do the corner, you can go ahead and just go all the way to the edge for those of you that are beginners. For those of you that are experienced sewers, if you want to just keep your shawl in, you know, in the machine and keep going, then that's really good too. But what you're going to do is at that corner, you're going to roll again. You're just going to roll your hem like that, and then you'll do the same thing all the way around the other side. Okay, so your corner will just look like this. And then you're gonna keep going. Okay. So that is gonna be your stitch all the way around your shawl. And we're gonna go back to our shawl that's already hemmed now. And I'm gonna show you all how to do some fringing. One of the other pieces that I was working on, because I'm working on a few different shawls like for giveaways and stuff. When I went on my machine and I forgot to like select the multiple zigzag stitch, and I just did a straight stitch. So you'll see with this shawl, it's just done with a straight stitch all the way around with the same concept, the same rolled hem all the way around the shawl. So you can see how that is there. With this other shawl that I did before, this just has a regular multiple zigzag stitch here. I don't know if you can see it well. So it doesn't have a multiple zigzag, and the multiple means it's like going in and out in between the bigger zigzag. But this is just a regular zigzag stitch. And with this one has a multiple zigzag. I hope you guys can see that. And that's the one that I just truly love to do. I like the way that it looks. And when you're doing your fringing, it also kind of helps with like a placeholder, or just like if you're looking at the zigzags, and then you can fringe like after every 4 zigzags or after every 3 zigzags, if you'd like. So this fringe that we're going to use, this string fringe here, a lot of times it can come on a spool, and you can cut your fringe off of that spool before you do your fringing. This method that I have, we're going to use today, is a little bit of a shortcut. But what I did was I bought one of these guys, and it's 18 inches long, just really long, like I like it. There's also like a 14 inch long, same kind of deal that you could use. But for these shells, I'm using an 18 inch. And this kind of eliminates the hassle of having to cut, because it's all already cut like the length that I want it. So why not, right? So what I'll do is I will take, because you'll see at the top, they're kind of paired together. So I'll take that pair and I'll pull it out. Line it up on the bottom, and that's what we're going to use to fringe through the shawl. So these crochet needles, like you can buy, and you can use one that fits, kind of will like pull the 2 fringes for you. Let's see, this one says 1.4 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is take the shawl. I'm going to use the crochet needle to poke through the shawl. And if you really feel like this is going to be hard to pull through, even pushing it down to where the hole will become bigger, you can do that. And so we take our pair just like that, and we're going to pull it through the shawl. Okay. Once you have that pulled through, then you're going to go ahead and loop these guys through and pull up. Okay. Once you have this part, I'm going to wrap it around my fingers and pull through just like you would like with a knot. And I use the back of this crochet needle to bring it all the way to the hem. And then push up. And then that's how you have your fringe. Okay, so we'll do it again. I used to be one of those that would mark every perfect increment, but now I just kind of use my thumb as a guide. Okay, so put your crochet needle through and go ahead and grab your pair. Make sure you have it lined up. Okay, pull it through, open it up, pull those guys through, and then loop for your knot. Okay. See, if your fringe kind of doesn't go all the way up to the hem, just loosen it up a little bit. And then make sure you push it up. Okay. And then you just keep doing that all the way around your shawl. This is the part when it's helpful to have some good music or your favorite TV show playing or something. Or if you have a singer at home, he could just sing songs to you while you're sewing. Just kidding. I just said that because Jake's home right now. Oh, my auntie's on here. Hi, Auntie.
Hi, baby girl.
Man, now I have to act right. Just kidding. Just kidding. Behaving myself. No, now
Fringe
that
looks like so hard.
the fringing, this is actually
Yeah.
the easy part, and it's so
Really?
fun. Yeah, it's just relaxing. And like some of you that are on this Zoom, I know some of you are crochet experts and even weavers on the call, so I'm super intimidated now. Yeah, so this is, you just do this all the way around your shawl. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. I remember when I did my first shawl, and I was kind of working on it with my sisters, and we were learning how to do this together. We did our first shawl, and then we didn't do another shawl for a really long time, and we like had to call each other like, hey, how do we tie those knots again, you know? So it's always good to have someone. That's the other thing I was saying. I like that we have this virtual time, but one of the other, I think, things I want to encourage everybody to do is, like, if you have those people in your community that are experienced in art form or like in certain ways, it's always good to really connect with them on a one-to-one level as much as you can, because with our teachings, I think that it's really important for that connection. like that student teacher connection, or, you know, like, you know, you might gain a new auntie, or you might gain like a lifelong relationship, because there's so many stories that come with it, right? If like you're just making a shawl and you don't know what to do with it after, just like, oh man, maybe just lost knowledge and lost connection of like the real purpose. So it's good that I'm glad that everybody's on here learning, and if you're viewing in later on this recording, then you know, you're taking that first step. But I would challenge everyone to like connect with those that have those stories, and like they have those teachings, so that you can ask them questions, or even like relearn you know, different things for this. So one of the elders that I ran into before, when I was wearing one of my shawls, she was talking about the type of fringing that the shawl had, and she was able to share with me some really cool stories about the shawl that I was wearing, because the shawl was gifted to me, and so I didn't even really know the significance behind like that gift. And I'll show you guys right now. So I was gifted this shawl out at Navajo Nation, right? And you'll see this fringing, and then this type of like netting, this fringe. What she was saying, the elder, she like told me to come sit down with her and talk to her, and you know, I was like sharing where I was from and all of that, and I told her I had received this in a giveaway, and she said, "Oh, that comes from my people." And what she was saying is that these different tiers here, these different like layers of knots, they represent the generations of women that like carried that on, you know. So like either carrying on these teachings or carrying on the dances and stuff. So those represent those generations. But I thought that was a really cool story. And, it's one of my favorite shawls, and I, you know, sometimes when we have giveaway and all that, we don't get to learn about all of those stories. So I was really happy to know that. And for other people too, like when I'm making regalia for them, if I'm not the one that's, you know, talking to them or teaching them like where the dances come from or those stories, then I want to make sure that they have somebody in their life. Maybe it's their family, and their family just doesn't have time to work on it for them. But that's always really important too. So I just encourage everybody, because we're doing this stuff virtual, and it's the way to stay connected. But we just have to always try to connect in other ways too, especially once this COVID lifts. You know, I think everybody in communities are going to be happy to see each other again and learn from each other again. But it's a different experience. I have this picture of my sister, my daughter, and like one of our friends from the community. Like we're all sitting on the couch and we're all working on shawls together. And it's just a really cool like picture for me, because there's those times where, you know, others are like, oh, I want to be a dancer, or oh, I want to learn how to make regalia. And so it's like, oh yeah, come over, let's spend the whole weekend together, bring your sleeping bag, you know. And so we really take time to do that, because it's not just the skill, it's also like the meaning behind all of it. So but yeah, let's see, I'm gonna do a time check. So you just continue doing this all around your shawl. And I'm kind of wiggling my needle just so the fabric can kind of open and separate to get the fringe through. And if I'm going fast, it's only because I do this a lot. I think that when I was first learning, I went really, really slow.
I think too is like you get so caught up in making everything so perfect, you know, that you like don't want to make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You make it look really easy. So
As skilled as I am, everyone, I still make a lot of mistakes. Inside and outside of sewing. Just kidding. Not kidding.
How long does it usually take to create a shawl in terms of like the time frame?
Oh, that's a good question. I was just thinking about that. So this part, the fringing part, I want to say that it takes like a movie and a half. Just kidding. That's not a good time scale. I'm just doing that for comedy. Okay, so this kind of adult size fringe, I want to say give yourself at least 5 hours, because like this might look like I'm going real fast, but for most people, you probably won't go this fast. Just like my auntie, when I'm watching her doing her weaving, oh my gosh, she goes so fast, and I'll probably like go like a 10th of that speed if I were doing that weaving. So at least 5 hours, or even if you like want to set a goal for yourself, like, oh, I'm gonna do a little bit on this day and a little bit on that day, and so maybe give yourself like a week for a shawl, just so you're not rushing. If I were to really go at the speed that I'm going right now and like real buckle down, get it done, I could probably complete a shawl in like maybe 2 hours. But that's also with going, I like to go a little bit closer together if I'm gonna, depending on who is this for, what are they gonna use it for, you know, because some of the traditional dancers, they really like their shawls really nice and close together. Or if you're going to do old style fancy with this, some of theirs like they like their fringes really nice and close together. If you're making this for grandma and stuff and you don't want it to be too heavy, or a young like a young child, and it just will get heavy for them, because again, after we're done, it's going to be folded in half, so they're going to have like two layers of fringing all around. It could get real heavy if there's a lot of fringe on there. So this one is like going to be for giveaway, and so most likely it's going to go to her grandma or someone, and so I'm not doing it too close together. But if I were to make this, you know, making this for one of my sisters, she dances traditional, or for myself, I would probably have them a little bit closer together. So my mom is a seamstress as well. She's a designer, and a lot of her work is really top notch. Um, and what she would do, and maybe I don't do all the time too, is once all of these fringes are done, and this used to be my job when I was real young, is um, going and you'll see like the bottom of your fringe right here. So we would go and trim this to make them completely even. And then what we would also do once we did that, kind of give it like a hair trim, right? Is we would dip all of these little ends of the fringe into some candle wax. And that would kind of seal the deal on these ends and keep them from fraying or coming apart. If you're not washing your shawl, you don't have to worry about it too much. But if you are washing your shawl, these guys will kind of fray up. And so that was like one thing that we would do is we would light a candle and then we would dip all the ends. And you don't want to dip them like really fast and then move on, because, or even put a lot of wax on these ends, because then they're just going to stick together, right? So we would trim it and then dip all the ends just to seal the fringe and let it dry. And so that's like another part of the process that is really timely. So even when I'm making these like for giveaway, or if I'm making for somebody, I always hope that, and I'll give like instructions to those folks, like that they can do that part. So they have a part in the making of it too, or they have a part in some part of the creation. You know, if a young girl is asking me to make a shawl, and maybe it's like a contemporary shawl with ribbon fringe, I'll purposely, leave that part for her so that she can be part of that process, because it's like, it's all of that. It's all of that time, that prayer, and those intentions and stuff. So it's good for them to be able to experience part of the making if it's possible. But even when I've given it to some grandmas and I'm like, oh, I didn't get to do that part, so you can go ahead and do it. And then they'll make me sit down and do it with them. So that's fun too, because then we get to just have tea and talk and do that part together.
What is the safest way to wash a shawl? Like, is it okay to wash it in a washer, or should this be hand washed, hand dried in terms of putting it outside? Like, any recommendations?
I would just kind of do it all by hand. For um for stuff that's not like, if you're not really wearing it too much and say you get like a little stain on it or something, I would just spot clean it. But if you are wearing it like you're doing some old style fancy and like you're wearing it over your shoulder and everybody knows how much cardio that is, and it kind of needs like a real good wash, I would just take it into the tub or the sink and wash it, like hand wash it that way without the fringe. Just wash like the material part, and then just air dry it. If you cannot put your stuff in the wash, that's really good. There are some of my outfits, especially my dresses, I definitely make those so I can wash, put it in the wash the machine because I want that to be really clean, smell really clean. Get real sweaty in them, maybe. Yeah, you just want to be able to throw some of that stuff in the wash. But other stuff, if you can hand wash it, that's good. Just to keep it lasting longer. So yeah, that is how you're gonna do your fringe. That's how you're gonna do your shawl. You're just gonna go all the way around. And once you're done, you'll have something like that. And this is a 18-inch long fringe. And it's done up all the way up on the sides too. All the way around. So that's it. Do you guys have any questions? Any more questions?
Are all the materials that you have today in front of us, did you get them at Joann's or like any retail wholesale place like that? Or any preference on where we could buy these materials?
Yeah, I think once you kind of get into the art, then you'll find like what's in your area. Living in the Bay Area, like, and specifically San Jose, like, I really like to go to the flea market.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like once those things open up again and it's safe. But there's also like some wholesale fabric places that will have some really good deals on gabardine, because if you go to Joann's, it's really expensive. You might have like find gabardine for like $9 a yard or more at Joann's, and you can get it at like a wholesale retailer for like maybe $2 or $3 a yard.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's a huge difference. So yeah, even if you all need supplies and stuff, I have access to supplies out here. The fringe and things, there's a lot of like powwowsupply.com stuff, or vendors that are like native vendors online that sell a lot of like fringing supplies and things like that you can go online and research that. I know one of the ones that comes up a lot is like Crazy Crow, but I would reach out to like some of those indigenous or like native vendors, because they could use the support. So there's those ones. The fringe that I bought that's already pre-cut, actually found that at like wholesale, a wholesale fabric place. So I got a really good deal on that stuff too. But yeah, that I know a lot of sewers, if you're a traveler or powwow traveler, we love the garment district in LA. And there's a lot of good deals there too that you can find. Yeah, those are just some suggestions, but a lot of everything you can find online for sure. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna ask you if there's specific events or times that one would wear a shawl, because I don't know a lot about that, and I would love to know now that I've seen you create one.
Yeah, I think what I was saying in one of the other classes before was I really love doing these types of things because it gives our young people opportunity to learn how to make some of like regalia or like social wear that we can wear in spaces where we might gather for either ceremony or powwow or any type of like gathering like that. There's different protocols and different, I guess, like expectations maybe. So it's always good to learn about those things, and having a shawl and having like a skirt, or kind of knowing like what your traditional wear is really important for our young ones to learn. For me, I'm Navajo, but I'm out here in California, and so I love to powwow. I love to be part of that intertribal space. And you know, with powwowing, there's dancing, and I'm also a dancer too. So these shawls, if I want to like maybe answer your question in terms of like Bay Area, because again, there's a lot of so many like tribal specific stuff. So I would get to know your community, and also encourage everybody to learn more about their own tribe. But if you're going into some intertribal spaces, then it's good to learn about those things too. So if you're young and you're just kind of learning for the first time, and maybe you want to visit a powwow, then, and you're making this, you're watching this video and you're making your shawl, then go ahead, bring your shawl with you, and bring it to the powwow. They have intertribal songs that you can go and dance, in. They welcome everybody, all tribes, all people. You know, spectators like to go and even dance too in those intertribals sometimes. So that would be one place for sure. A lot of other communities in and around here, they like to have round dances around winter time, and that time's coming up. So a lot of the women, they bring their shawls with them there too, to go and listen to that singing and be part of those ways. So it's always nice to have a shawl when you're doing those types of things. But there's, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of other like spaces and tribal things that you can bring your shawl to. But I would just get to know like your local community and see what's there, see what's going on. And that's another good thing about like connecting with the teacher that's kind of teaching you how to do these things, because they can tell you, and you can have like that conversation with them or that connection with them, like to learn more about it. Because I think that there's not just like easy answers like, oh, this way or that way, because there's so many different ways, and we're so like tribally rich everywhere, right? Just even in California, oh my goodness, there's so many local tribes here in California, and then you bring everyone else that's not like California tribe, and it's so intertribal, like with relocation and things like that. So there's so many other different tribes that are here, and like with the California people too. So yeah, but that's a good question, and I don't think I gave you a really good answer, but
You gave me so much information. I'm just happy that you extended that. Thank you.
yeah, but I know that it's always good to have like I love giving these shawls away because it's so fun for me to make, and I love like I was saying earlier, like the old style dancing and using these shawls for that. And, different colors mean different things to certain people in different tribes. So even when we're like thinking about like our old ways, and even the families, they might have certain colors that are very meaningful to them. You know, tribes, bands, clans, those things, they have like specific teachings for those the colors that they use, and even in some tribes there is there's like some no-nos. So I think that and I'm sorry if this is misinformation, but when I was invited to a bear dance out here, you know, living in California, and I was asked not to wear red, that's a big no-no. And April's shaking her head, so I think that might be true. and so I think that that color means something real different for that kind of gathering and that kind of ceremony. So like that's why I encourage everybody to kind of learn about not just your own, because your stuff is really powerful and true on its own, but also like if you're living in a place other than your own kind of tribal home, then there's other teachings too that you want to kind of be mindful of or respectful to. And I know that red means a lot of different things for a lot of different tribes. So like definitely I learned, you know, that was one thing that was shared with me, like don't wear red to a bear dance. And there's some tribes that I've heard that they can't wear red also for certain things in the regalia. And but now, you know, there's a lot going on where we're recognizing domestic violence, or we're recognizing missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. And red is used a lot today for those types of things too. So when you're choosing your colors, I would really be like open-minded and like ask questions to like your elders and those that you're teaching, and is this okay? Is that okay? And when I'm choosing my colors, and it depends what it is, right? So if we're talking about like traditional regalia and traditional wear, my answer to choosing like my colors might be different, very, very different to choosing my colors for my powwow regalia, being like a contemporary fancy dancer. Because I don't just dance old style, I'll dance contemporary a lot. And you'll see in contemporary like outfits that they're really flashy and they're really like extravagant, right? So they're using a lot of colors, maybe even like neon colors. And a lot of those regalias, they speak to like more of the personality of the dancer than they do to like the rooted tribal significance. And then you'll see other dancers that they stay within like their traditional family designs, family colors. They keep it really simple. So there's a variety out there, definitely. So those are just some considerations when you're choosing your colors and choosing regalia. And then sometimes even it's just like what looks good with my beadwork, you know? But yeah, there's just so many considerations. And so if there are grandmas that are listening and tuning in and you want to school me on some of that too, I'm open to hearing, you know, different stories and all that. It's just, these are just some of the things that I've been taught or I've been told. So yeah, it's a good question. Any other questions? Because I think that we're about to close out. And I know that we're going to have another session on Thursday. This one was just a follow-up session to our previous shawl making, where we were going through all the different steps for shawl making. And on Thursday, we're going to come together again, and I'm going to show you applique sewing. So Even if you were making the shawl, you want to take it to the next level, and you're like, oh, I want a contemporary, like really fun shawl. Maybe you want to make it for your little girl or something. I'm going to show everybody how to do some applique sewing. So you can add these applique pieces to your dresses, your skirts, your shawls, different parts of any type of regalia, really. You can put it on your work coat and sew it onto your jean jacket. But I love applique sewing. It's really fun for me, and it's so free. So there's so many different things. Let's see. I think we had another question. Can you make your shawl stand alone, or does it have to be part of a full regalia outfit? That's a good question. You can definitely make it on your own. I have like shawls and skirts that are just all on their own. But yeah, you can definitely make it to be a standalone piece for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to share that we have part 1 applique sewing. That'll be October 15th at 5:30 again on the Zoom, and part 1 of ribbon skirt making on October 22nd at 5:30. And I think we were also thinking around, you mentioned MMIW and it being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and a lot of women are thinking about making skirts right now, thinking about making purple skirts for domestic violence awareness, but then also red for MMIW. So I see that pretty often. So I think that'll be really good. I seen you making skirts the other night, and I was like, oh, she's making skirts. It looks so pretty. So I think that'll be exciting. And then the tea dress part 2 will be October 20th is what we have for that as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And yeah, you make it look so easy, and I really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge and skills with us, Anasita. So, and these are just like, American Indian Cultural Center in San Francisco. This is part of our virtual series. This is regalia making is part of what the community has asked during this time, because I know it's hard for folks to always be on Zoom, but in the evening, if there's, say, they've already watched all their Netflix series, they could come on and learn to sew. So really appreciate that, and having you, and just having that time to even connect with each other, like Johnny was saying earlier, like just a space for us women to talk and learn from each other. I think it's really important. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that we got to do this again tonight, and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. Thank you, April. Thank you, Jenny, for you guys setting this up and seeing the need and reaching out to do this. Like I said, this is one of my passions. I love sewing, and I love sharing what I know so far. I think I'm still really young, and that I have a lot more to learn. But whatever I know, I just want to share it with everyone, so we can all get out there and dance. We can all get out there and wear our skirts. There's like a really cool meme I saw online where it's like we recognize each other by our like big earrings that we're wearing. And so I think that's so cool, because it's like like how we wear certain things so that like the holy ones can recognize us, or we wear certain things so we can even recognize each other. And so I love that, and I love that we're teaching our youth to be proud of who they are, and kind of keep that within their lifestyle, so that they don't they can get to know one another, right, and learn from each other and stuff. So I love it. I love that you all are doing this, and I'm just so happy to be here with you all. So I can't wait till the next one. We'll do some more sewing together, and I think that's it for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your availability and for just being here today and teaching me as someone who doesn't know much about this. This was I had a great time. I wrote a lot of notes on my postcards, like post-it notes, sorry, so I could like look back and even attempt to do this or learn more about this because this is very interesting and it was just very, very humbling and enriching to sit in and listen and hear. So thank you again.
Thank you. Yeah, and I encourage, like I said, this is virtual, but if any of you all are tuning in at a later time to watch this video and you have questions, I am very accessible on social media. You can find me on Facebook. You can, find me on the internet with the Indian Health Center or with the American Indian Alliance out here in the Bay Area. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me and I can help you with some troubleshooting. I can help you with more questions if you like. I'm really looking forward to making those kinds of connections, especially with our youth. If you're willing to take the time to learn and do these things, then I am here and I'm available because I love that you guys are making culture, making these things a priority in your life. So shout out to our youth out there that are learning these ways.
Yeah, and I think that as soon as this pandemic is over, hopefully we see ourselves, in a space where we could, come together and sew together and also like Anacita was saying, if, you sew your shawl and, we're able to like be at a powwow gathering and you see her, go say hi to her and tell her that you took her class. I know that'll make her feel good or that you learned something because this was really good. And I think I think people will learn a lot. So if you, like I said, if you're watching this too, and these videos will be on the website. So you can go to the AICCSF website and it'll be available for you. So thank you everybody that was here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. Hug on it.